Your rental property sitting on the market too long and you have frustrated landlords just breathing down your neck? Every day a property stays vacant, we have landlords who are getting more and more frustrated. It's money lost, stress gains for both them and you. In this video, I'm going to show you how to attract quality tenants quickly and then screen them like a pro so you can keep those vacancies short and your landlords happy. So stick around, it's going to be fun, and more importantly, it'll save you a ton of headaches down the road. Before we get into it, make sure if you love this content, hit the subscribe button or hit that notifications bell to get more great content just like this. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about all things property management. Today, we are tackling one of the biggest challenges for property managers, and that's how to attract and screen the right tenants. Because let's face it, attracting the wrong tenants is inviting a bull into a china shop. You're just waiting for bad things to happen. In this video, we are going to break down marketing strategies to attract high quality tenants, how to speak to owners, and show you how to screen tenants like a professional, so you don't end up with someone who forgets to pay rent every month. Stick around, it's going to be fun, and more importantly, it'll save you a lot of headaches down the road. Before we talk about screening tenants, let's tackle the first problem, attracting the right tenants. So, first tip, use a listing syndication tool. Right? This is your property megaphone. And for most people, your property management software will really do the trick. It's going to syndicate to all of the popular websites, and the places where tenants are just going to find you. If you're using a tool like Tenant Turner or Show Mojo, they usually have that functionality in there as well. For property management software, Rentvine, Appfolio, these softwares will syndicate your properties out. Again, that'll do the trick. But think of a listing syndication like a megaphone for your property listings. You post it once, and it yells across the internet to platforms like Zillow, Realtor.com, Facebook Marketplace, basically all the places that tenants are hanging out. And sometimes you might have to consider with Zillow to pay for the additional service, depending on the property. But it's not $19.99 anymore. You don't need to be listing your properties on Craigslist. In fact, a lot of bad things can happen from that. If you haven't done it before, this is a practice that we used to do. And one of the bad things that happen from that is scammers. We would have owners contacting us saying, hey, I found my listing online and it looks like my property, but it's completely different and it's not your information. And that is super scary. And we actually had a scam happen on one of them before, and it is not something you want to get into. So instead of manually posting to every site, let the software do the heavy lifting for you. Literally, it creates efficiency, and it's a one-to-many approach. It's like having your own personal assistant, but you don't have to pay their salary and their coffee breaks, right? You just have one team member who's posting it on the site, syndicating it out there. So, tip 2, professional photos and virtual tours. So important. First impressions are everything. Imagine online dating and you're scrolling and you're looking for that special someone, but the first thing, the photos are like blurry or low res. Is that somebody who you're going to click on and want to get to know? Nope. Your property photos are the first impression, and make them count. In 2024, over 80% of tenants start their search online. It's probably more by now. I don't know who's searching for properties not online, but this is the data. Great photos are a must. But if you really want to stand out, the ones who get their units filled the quickest offer a virtual tour. It doesn't cost that much. You can actually charge for a marketing fee for your owners. Check your legislation in your own state and see if that's something that you're able to do. But most of the time, that's what people do. They'll charge a marketing fee. It's like letting them walk through the property in their pajamas without ever leaving their couch. And people want that. Tenants want the easy button. So we have to provide it to them. We have to meet them where they are. You filter out all the looky-loos that are going to waste your time, and you get people who are more serious. Tip 3, focus on the right platforms, right? Fish where the fish are. Forget Google ads or Facebook ads or any of that. You don't need to spend money in order to get good quality tenants. Invest maybe in enhancing your listing on some of the normal sites where people go, but don't use ads. It's just not going to make sense. Like fishing in an ocean with a blindfold, right? Focus on Zillow, apartments.com, Facebook Marketplace, places like this. And then whatever your PM software is syndicating to. And then tip 4 for this is really my favorite. There's only so many ways that a property is going to get rented, right? It's either the condition of the property. People want a property in good condition. Or it's the location, very important. Or it's the price. Price is competitive. Now, condition, you can control that if you have a good owner and good processes in place. Location, can't do anything about that. But price, we can. We don't dictate the price. Either does the landlord, unfortunately. The market does. The tenants dictate the price. I recommend communicate with your landlord or set the expectations for automatic renewals. And either way works. What I used to do is have the expectations up front with the landlord, and I would say, listen, Mr. or Mrs. Landlord, the property is going to rent, right? And we want to rent it as quickly as possible for as much money as possible to the right tenant. And we don't control the market, right? The tenant does. That's just the way that it works. So we have to stand out, and we also have to be price competitive. And what we know is if we don't get interest on the property within the first week, if we get no contact at all, we know it's at least 10% overpriced. And if we're getting people through the door, but they're not giving us applications, then we know it's at least 5% overpriced. We have to do the right thing, and we have to stay on top of this. So this is why we will update you weekly as to the progress, but we need to get the property rented within the first 30 days. It's a must, or else it's going to go stale, and we don't want that. And that's why you hired me, isn't it, Mr. Owner, Mrs. Owner, right? So this is the script that you would use, or in your property management agreement, what some people do is they can control the price. They can reduce the price as much as they want. They can set the price. So if you have those kinds of landlords, things are much easier. If you don't, make sure that you're setting the expectations using your script and also having weekly updates. Super important. Now, let's talk about best practices for tenant screening, aka how to avoid tenant nightmares. You've attracted some interest. Congrats. Now comes the real fun, screening the tenants. Think of a job interview for your property. You wouldn't hire someone without checking their references first, right? Same thing here. Tip 1, standardized application process. Keep it fair, keep it consistent. This is known as resident selection criteria. Have the same criteria that you put people through, or else you might get in trouble. You probably will get in trouble because likely you are violating fair housing. Stay away of fair housing violations. It'll put you out of business. Stay out of trouble. Always use the same application process for every potential tenant. It's like having a universal remote, right? It's like the same thing every time. It's a process, right? People going through the same thing. It ensures you're collecting the same information, employment history, income, rental history, and references. It keeps you compliant with housing laws. You don't want a legal headache. I can't stress that enough. Tip 2, run background checks. Don't judge a book by its cover, right? Judge it by its credit score. Good credit score is like a crystal ball for tenant reliability. Look for a score of whatever your minimum requirements are. Maybe it's 600 or 650, but you could be flexible depending on the market. Just remember, you may need to adjust your resident selection criteria on an annual basis, just depending on the market, but keep it consistent for everybody. Check their eviction history. If they've been kicked out before, it's probably a good sign that you want to stay clear, or maybe you have exceptions to that rule. And if you do, then it might require additional security deposit. Just really think this through. Reach out to a professional coach or just other people in the industry that you respect. And NARPM is a very good community, National Association of Residential Property Managers. I speak at those events a lot. It's a very close-knit community. Think about that and make sure that you're staying compliant. You don't want somebody to, fair housing laws say that you can't deny someone for their past alone, so you have to evaluate these things fairly. Tip 3, verify income and employment, right? It's trust, but verify. You wouldn't rent out a Ferrari to someone who has a skateboard budget, right? Champagne tastes, beer budget, right? I think that's how the saying goes. Make sure your tenant's monthly income is at least 3 times the rent. That's the rule of thumb. But if it's different for you and your market and your clientele, then just make sure that it's going to be fair and it's going to stay consistent across the board. Ask for pay stubs, tax returns, bank statements, whatever you need to verify income. Ask them for how much money they have underneath their mattress and take pictures. Don't hesitate to call their employer for extra information or confirmation to that matter. And now tip 4, check references. Please, you have to call them. You get references for a reason. And some people will put on a family member. If you've ever had a reference request before for yourself when you were applying for a job, if you had to have a job, God bless you. If you did, I used to have a job and I hated it. So entrepreneurship, this is what we love. Okay, back to this. But yes, checking the references, you have to call them. They'll give you references like maybe they'll give you their mom or their cousin or someone else. So you have to make sure that they were their previous landlords, and you have to ask them tough questions, right? Would you rent to this tenant again? Did they pay the rent on time? Did you need to set up a GoFundMe to get their rent? Who knows, right? But you have to ask them. You can't do that if you don't call. It's a little bit of detective work, but you don't have to get the trench coat or the glasses. And then tip 5, stay fair and compliant. I can't stress this enough, because that legal stuff you just can't skip. And I know it's boring for most people to have to do accounting and legal, but you're running your business. These are requirements and you have to do it. So follow fair housing, just no discriminating based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, disability. You can't discriminate. It's not right, it's not fair, and it's against the law. So just don't do it. And then have a consistent process for each applicant. And we talked about that before, but it is super important. And there you have it, a straightforward, beginner-friendly guide to attracting quality tenants and screening them like a true professional property manager. Remember, marketing's half the battle, but once you attracted the right people, you have to make sure that they are the right fit for the property. Last thing you want to do is have a property sitting on the market for more than 30 days, having the landlord breathing down your neck, getting stressed out, not wanting to talk to them. And this is, the onboarding process. It's the first impression. You're delivering on the promise that you made to your landlord. So let's attract and screen the right tenants. Hey, if you found this video helpful, smash that subscribe button or hit the notification bell, ding ding, drop a comment, and we'll be happy to make sure that we're creating great content that helps you in your business. Let us know. Till next time, I'm Jay, helping you navigate the world of property management. I will see you later.